We have got you many interviews on ET Now Startup Central, but this one is clearly special. We take you bang in the middle of all the action. We are, of course, at Myntra's warehouse on the outskirts of Bengaluru. I have Ananth with me, and I must tell you, it's quite a crazy experience for me to come down and see how the entire sale is managed by an e-commerce player. Ananth, thank you so much for having us over and opening the doors to an erstwhile closed warehouse to the media. It's a pleasure having you.
Yep.
Tell us, the madness that really happens at the warehouse closer to the sale. We are bang in the middle of your biggest sale so far, end of season sale. So what's really the madness that really takes? Because the orders must be multiples of what you generally receive.
Of course. So look, this is going to be our largest edition of end of season sale. So 24th to 26th, and it's 25x the daily volume. So if you just imagine what happens in a warehouse, you're now suddenly ramping it up 25x, right? So it's just wonderful. The reason we suggested doing it here is it actually becomes real. So this is where all the action is. Every day, 1 lakh shipments will actually get sent out of this warehouse. And we have 3 of these warehouses.
That's
right?
massive.
So it's just massive. So this is going to be our biggest, and I think all of the action is happening here. What we also do, by the way, is fine-tune all of our processes so that the scale-up can actually happen.
End of reason, we all are used to end of season. You've had many end of, but clarify to us, why the end of reason sale,
Sure.
Are you saying that you have to just drop all your hats and get shopping because you don't need a reason to shop since the discounts are so good?
So look, Myntra always does stuff innovatively. So end of reason is our take on end of season sale. We do it all in a 3-day time frame as opposed to an 8-week time frame. The real thing is we don't need a reason to shop. The value for customers is so good. So this time, by the way, 2,000 brands, 1 crore plus products, 50 to 80% plus discounts, right? So it will be enormous.
Even previously last year when you met all of us, you told us that discounts will be slowly on the downhill.
Yes.
So I'm sure from the first sale that you had till now, of course the discounts have considerably gone down, but are discounts really here to stay? How important and crucial are events of this magnitude?
So one is you have to look at discounts across the year. So discounts across the year have come down. However, end of season is a fashion specific event. You go from spring, summer to autumn, winter, you have excess inventory, you want to actually get rid of the excess inventory. The other thing we do is, as you rightly pointed out, it's a great customer acquisition tool. This time we expect 4 lakh new customers to come between Myntra and Jabong.
Okay.
When we actually do this. So I don't think our end of season sales are going to go away.
How many orders have you been delivering on average? How is the last 6 months panned out for you? Because in the month of Jan also you shared an update that Myntra is closing towards the path to profitability, closing towards really breaking even and getting that closer. So how closer are you in the middle of the year?
Yeah, so very much on track. So we are on track to profitability. JFM 2018, like I told you last time, is when we're gunning for profitability. We want growth and profitability. It's not just, we can easily get to profitability if we don't grow. But in an e-commerce business, you have to grow. So we're growing roughly at about 50% year on year, which was actually according to plan. I think the interesting thing is we're also growing on a BAU day, on a regular day. So obviously these peak events are great, but regular days need to go up as well. So we're continuing to focus on selection, bringing new brands in, service, where you are here, how do we actually improve NPS?
All right. Spend some time to us talking about Jabong. It's been quite some time since the acquisition has panned out. What sort of a growth are you seeing? Because there is a lot of integration in the back end. You're having the sale that even Jabong is taking part in. There was concern that Jabong wasn't growing as much as Myntra was. So how's Jabong panned out in the last 1 year? Are they closer to really matching up and delivering those numbers?
So I think Jabong's gone through a terrific turnaround. It's now almost, last July was the acquisition, if you remember, right? So it's almost now a year. So what's happened is, one, there's been a turnaround in unit economics, which is basically every unit are we making money. So that's actually now turned fully. So Jabong is very much unit economics positive. The second is, just before we acquired, they went through a transition and their consumer experience scores really dropped. So again, the team has really worked and actually brought up the NPS. That's been great. Third is when we bought Jabong, I think they were going through a degrowth phase. Now that stopped, we've started growing again. So this year, the growth target for Jabong is 30%. I think from a differentiation standpoint, we intend to keep the brands separate, right? The brands do stand for different things. I think the customer overlap continues to remain only 27%. So we're still quite bullish about that as a separate brand.
What would really be the big focus areas for Myntra going ahead? Private labels has been a big push. It's clear that private labels help you. You have stars on board with their brands. So to connect with, what really will be the 2 big focus areas for Myntra?
2 big focus areas. The first is really what I would call brands, whether it's private label or brand accelerator program, where we get equity. in brands and we help them grow, and therefore exclusivity. I think that's one big focus area. The other big focus area in my mind is engagement, which is how do we actually create experiences for customers so they engage with Myntra almost on a daily basis. So those are the big two focus areas for us if you think about breakthrough.
I have to pick your brains on GST, which is definitely the biggest
Sure.
tax regime. You've been very vocal about the issues that e-commerce players, including Myntra, especially in the branded apparel space,
Sure.
will have. So how do you see this really impacting the e-commerce space in Myntra, to be very particular?
Sure. So look, overall long term, like I've said, I think with Chandra and others, I think it's actually a good thing. Because in reality, it actually unifies the tax code. It makes operating the business much easier. Also, our supply chain can become much better and can be focused where demand is as opposed to sort of optimizing for tax. So long term, very good move, right? And I think it will help all e-commerce players. In the short term, I think you have to manage some of the shocks that may happen. The first is transition. Now, Myntra itself is very well prepared for this transition. We've been doing this for the last 6 months to say what can we really do to get ready for it. And for us, it's not just us, but our entire ecosystem, right?
And the sellers,
so the sellers
well,
and all of that. So we've actually been working with the sellers, we've been working with the brands to make sure that they're all ready. So very confident that July 1st we'll get there. Apparel, by the way, I think with the 12% that actually came out is okay. I think overall there won't be a demand shock. I think some categories like accessories, which went to 28%, you could expect a demand shock because MRPs may go up. But net, I feel very positive about it. I actually think it will only do us good. And I think Myntra in particular will do us good because one, there's going to be no demand shock because the rates are actually reasonable and what we expected. And second, from a supply chain standpoint, from a tax credit standpoint, all of that will help. And third, quite honestly, you know, our entire supply chain network can be rethought of and can be streamlined, right? Because you're no longer optimizing for tax, you're optimizing for pure logistics and consumer experience. So net, very positive.
All right. But would the concern around the tax deduction at source for sellers, the 1%, be, will you have to deploy additional investment sort of, because, you know, every seller, every order that goes through should be quite a pain point, right, to be handling?
No, I mean, look, it's a working capital hit. You know, would I have not wanted it? Sure. But is it the end of the world? No. I think net across all of this, I still feel very positive. And I actually think kudos to the government to sort of pushing this through, because I actually do think it will make a breakthrough in Indian business and how we operate.
All right. Ananth, lastly, this is completely for customers watching the show.
Yeah.
So post GST, what impact will it really have from a Myntra perspective? Break it down to 3 products. Said accessories, the MRP might go up. Branded apparel, what would really get cheaper and what's going to cost us more?
So I think net for our customers, life only gets better. It doesn't get worse. I think the reason is simple. First, I think hopefully consumer experience goes up because I think our supply chain will get simplified. Second, from a pricing standpoint, too early to tell, but my sense is there may not be dramatic increases anywhere. I think apparel will be the same. Accessories may go up, but yet to be seen because it depends on the brands and the sellers. But overall, look, my sense is net for customers, it will be positive.